For the new Xbox Series X and S, Razer has come out with a couple of really great peripherals. First, we have the Kaira Pro wireless headset, which also features Bluetooth, and we also have the Wolverine V2 controller. Taking a lot of technology from their PC lineup of headsets and improving on the older version of the Wolverine, both of these peripherals have some great features for the new Xbox Series X and S. So let's check them out. Thanks for watching 9 to 5 Toys. Be sure to like, subscribe, and enable notifications with the bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Alright, so first off, let's start with the Kaira Pro, and this was a part of the big Ultimate headset comparison that we just did recently. I'll put the card up here if you want to check that out, also link it down in the description, but I hadn't done a dedicated review yet on the Kaira, so I wanted to include that here. Aimed at console and mobile gaming, the Razer Kaira Pro adds a lot of functionality to a wireless gaming headset. With Bluetooth 5.0, it features a low latency connection that's great for gaming or watching media. While playing Xbox, connecting to a mobile device via Bluetooth also lets you listen to music or talk to teammates on Discord or even take calls, so there's a lot of great functionality built into this headset. And the Kaira Pro comes in at $150, so another thing to consider here is if you don't need the Bluetooth connectivity, Razer does offer the normal non-Pro Kaira, which comes in at $100. Alright, so back to the Kaira Pro. The overall design is pretty subtle. Obviously it has this black and green colorway, which goes well with Razer's branding, but also Xbox. And being a Razer headset, it also has RGB, which you can see the logos glowing here. So that is customizable through the Razer Headset for Xbox app, which you can access both on your Xbox and also on a PC. And there are a few different settings you can do there, like static, breathing, or spectrum cycling. Controls are pretty standard on the Kaira, since it uses Xbox wireless protocol rather than a wireless adapter like the SteelSeries Arctis 7X and Penrose X. Connecting to an Xbox is as simple as pressing the sync button on your console and the sync button on the right ear cup. On the left ear cup, we have a mic mute toggle, volume dial, power button, and USB-C port. On the right ear cup is that sync button, the chat game mix dial, and a Bluetooth button. Comfort-wise, these large flow-knit memory foam ear cushions provide quite a bit of comfort, and I was perfectly fine wearing these for multiple hours while gaming. They're pretty large and easily fit over my ears for a very comfortable fit that way. Although, as I said in the Ultimate comparison, these aren't as comfortable as the SteelSeries Arctis lineup, but like I said, I had no issue wearing these for multiple hours while gaming. I found them to be plenty comfortable. The Kaira Pro also has a soft headband up here, which you can see doesn't go the full length of the headband, but it is plenty fine for just sitting on top of your head. And there's decent clamping force on here, so I didn't feel like there was much pressure on the top of my head while wearing this headset. Of course, you can also expand the arms here, quite a bit of size variation you can do, and the ear cups will rotate 90 degrees to lay flat on your collarbones when not in use. Taking the 50mm Triforce drivers from the Black Shark V2 line, the Razer Kaira Pro offers huge, customizable sound. Once again, thanks to that Razer Headset for Xbox app, there's a lot of customization you can do to the EQ within there. Audio profiles can be set and tweaked to easily fit any game or playstyle. By default, there are EQ modes for default, bass, FPS, and then your own custom settings. Another cool thing that you can tweak in the app is the microphone EQ as well. So Razer is using their Hyperclear microphone, which is removable, just like on the Black Shark V2 line. Both in that Razer Headset for Xbox app, you can also do some tweaks to the mic. So you can adjust the volume of it, you can add some normalization so that it's coming through a little bit more evenly, and you can do a bunch of EQ tweaks as well. There are different modes for a conference setting or for a broadcast setting, which adds a lot of variety to the sound that's coming out. If you want it to be more emphasized for clear communications, or if you want it to sound more natural, there's a lot of cool things you can do in there. And this is the only headset that I've tried for Xbox Series X that has this kind of functionality. Razer does have a mic monitoring mode you can turn on to, hear the sound of your voice, but I'm doing all of those tweaks in there. It didn't seem to put those changes through the mic monitoring, so I wasn't able to actually hear what the changes sounded like. But from talking with friends while playing games, they said everything sounded pretty clear and pretty natural, especially for a wireless headset. So watching videos and playing games on the Kaira Pro via that Bluetooth on mobile devices is really a great experience thanks to that low latency Bluetooth 5.0 connection. When watching YouTube videos, I really couldn't tell any delay, any latency from the audio compared to the video. So overall, for $150, the Kaira Pro has some great features. Of course, that price point is going right up against some stiff competition with the SteelSeries Arctis 7X, which is one of my favorites, and also the Turtle Beach Stealth 700 Gen 2, which is another fan favorite thanks to that superhuman hearing mode and also Bluetooth connectivity. But with that low latency Bluetooth for gaming and also adjustable EQ modes for both audio and microphone and customizable RGB, there is a lot to like about the Kaira Pro. Alright, so now let's move on to the controller, the Wolverine V2. Right off the bat here, you can see this is a wired controller, so that does take away a little bit of the convenience of a console, but this is still a very high quality controller. And we'll be comparing this to a stock normal Xbox Series X controller as we go through this review as well. So overall, design-wise compared to the stock controller, there are some key changes with the Wolverine V2. Unlike the stock Series X controller, the textured grip wraps around the front of the controller near the bottom of the handles for a little bit more texture and a little bit more of a secure grip. And also compared to the stock controller and also the original Wolverine, there's a little bit more of a contour in the grips here. So it's a little bit thinner near the middle and a little bit thicker here at the bottom of the handle where your palm would grip it. It's also a little bit wider overall. The distance between B and the left thumbstick is a little bit wider than what it is on the stock controller. On the face of the controller is everything you would expect. We have both thumbsticks, the D-pad, the face buttons. We have the menu and Xbox buttons and all that. We also have the new upload buttons for the Xbox Series X and S, but there are a couple of additions when you start to look at the front that Razer has thrown in here. Next to the triggers are two mappable buttons called M1 and M2. So within the Razer controller setup for Xbox, which is also available on Windows 10 via the Microsoft Store, these can be mapped to any input. While not quite as handy as having paddles on the bottom of the controller, which I've gotten quite used to thanks to the Elite series, these two mappable buttons do add a lot of functionality to this controller. So if you have, a button that you use often and it's hard to reach otherwise, you can just put it right there next to your trigger and you can easily and quickly find it. In my opinion, one of the highlights of the Wolverine V2 are the feel of the different buttons on here, both the D-pad and the face buttons. They sound like a mouse click and feel just as satisfying. I'm a really big fan. And so here we'll do a quick sound test so you can hear how the Wolverine V2 sounds compared to the stock controller. They don't feel as mushy as the stock controller, and that nice tactile click in there really feels great. And the D-pad feels just as good as well. It's a little bit sharper, a little bit harder than the face buttons to press, but it gives a very satisfying click when you do press it. And moving on to the triggers, there are some nice updates here as well. So it feels like the normal pull is just the same as a stock controller, but there is some nice contour on here, so your finger rests a little more easy in there. But they also have a trigger lock if you want to, turn that into more of a hair trigger with a little shorter actuation, which takes quite a bit of pull distance off of that trigger, so it actuates much quicker. So in use, the Wolverine V2, in my opinion, feels great. Obviously, it is a wired controller, so that takes away some of the convenience, but the build quality and functionality that Razer has built into here, I am a really big fan of. I love the feel and the sound of those buttons, and having the added functionality of those mappable buttons up front here just make this a really great feeling and performing controller. All right, so wrapping up here, Razer has come out with two really great peripherals for the new Xbox Series X and S. I do think the Kaira Pro is a great sounding headset. I love that there's some microphone tweaking you can do in there to change how that sounds, because famously, wireless headsets don't sound that great when you're chatting with your friends. So I really think that's a cool functionality to have built in there. And the Wolverine V2, I think, is a great looking, great feeling, and it feels very solidly built. The buttons feel absolutely great on the Wolverine V2. And of course, there's a ton of customization you can do on either of these, with all those mappable buttons and inputs on the Wolverine V2, and all of the EQ and RGB settings on the Kaira Pro. All right, and that'll do it for our review of the Razer Xbox Series S and X peripheral suite with the Kaira Pro and the Wolverine V2. Let us know what you think about them down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.